When I first started out with digital drawing, the only iPad available that was compatible with the Apple Pencil was the very expensive first generation iPad Pro. Now 4 years on, an entire range is compatible with it and also has a cheaper entry point as well. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at Apple's cheapest and latest iPad and whether it's a good tool for creatives wanting to dive into the world of digital drawing. I want to thank Paperlike for sponsoring this video and also supplying the iPad and Apple Pencil I'll be using. Paperlike is a screen protector for your iPad. One of the main features is it makes writing and drawing feel like you're using paper. I've been using one ever since I got my first generation iPad Pro, and the increased resistance you get with the screen protector makes the experience much more like the pencil and paper method I was used to. I'll leave a link in the description below for version 2 of Paperlike and where to buy it, and also a video I did where I compared it to a regular screen protector. So the latest iPad, the 10.2 inch version, is the cheapest available in the iPad lineup that's compatible with the Apple Pencil. But is it any good if you're on a budget and you want to enter the world of digital drawing? First, let's talk about some of the pros of the budget iPad, starting with the size. So this is the 10.2 inch version, which is a slight increase on the previous 9.7 model. I like it because it's a similar size to the paper notebooks that I'm used to, but I wouldn't want to go any smaller than this. Coming from the larger iPad Pro screens, I thought I'd be doing a lot of zooming in and out when I was creating in stuff like Procreate, but actually wasn't too bad and I didn't feel too restricted. The overall dimensions are very similar to that of the iPad Pro 11 inch and the iPad Air, but this one has the smallest screen real estate of all three. Next, let's talk about performance. I've yet to find any drawing apps I regularly use where the budget iPad falls down compared to the iPad Pro. Even opening one of the example artworks in Affinity Designer, which has hundreds of vector and raster layers, it didn't seem to affect the performance. Even the vector brushes seem to perform quite well. The only time I saw a subtle bit of lag was in Adobe Fresco when I was using their live brushes, but then again I was dragging the pencil quickly across the screen to get that delay. So lastly, let's talk about the price. As I mentioned earlier, this is the cheapest iPad available, starting at £349 for the 32GB version. Which is a whopping £420 cheaper than the 11 inch iPad Pro. On top of that, you have to add the price of the Apple Pencil, which is an extra £89 at the moment, which is still £30 cheaper than the second generation Apple Pencil. There isn't any difference between the two in terms of performance, it's just the added functionality you get with the second one, which is wireless charging and a double tap gesture. In my opinion, I prefer using the second one only due to the fact it's got a matte finish and it's slightly shorter in size. So that's the pros. Now let's have a look at some of the cons of the budget iPad. First up, the display. Even though the display is nice and bright, there is a bit of a gap between the display and the screen, which you can clearly see visible when you're using the Apple Pencil. On all models of the iPad Pro and the latest iPad Air and iPad Mini, you get laminated screens. This means that the display is stuck or fused onto the glass screen, whereas on the budget iPad, you've got a separate screen and a separate display laid on top of each other, resulting in this little gap. I did get used to it after a while, but I found that my accuracy was a bit off when I was trying to do the sort of finer details of a design. Next, let's talk about storage. So the entry-level budget iPad comes with just 32GB of space. That's small even for a phone storage, let alone a tablet. So by the time you've got a bunch of apps, operating system, movies, videos, photos, and any art you create on it, you'll soon run out of space. So the options are either 32GB or 128. Always recommend going for the larger one so you can happily create in apps like Procreate and not have to worry about running out of space. The thing about Procreate is that it saves its documents inside the app. So even if you've got an iCloud account, you have to regularly export the documents to your iCloud drive to save your device from running out of space. Lastly, let's talk about performance. I know I mentioned this as a positive earlier, but it's running a slower chipset compared to the iPad Air and iPad Pro, and also only comes with 3GB of RAM rather than 4 and 6GB of the iPad Pro. This means you don't get quite as many layers in a Procreate document. So for example, if you've got a document size of 3000 by 4000 pixels, you'll get 40 layers available on the Pro, whereas you only get 18 on the budget iPad. If Procreate's the main reason you're getting this device, then you have to bear that in mind, especially if you're doing high res artwork, because you'll get very frustrated with the minimal amount of layers available. So do I think you should get the budget iPad if you're wanting to get into digital drawing for the first time? My answer is both yes and no. If it's a real stretch for you to afford the budget iPad, then go for it. It's a great little device that you'll happily create on. But if you can afford an extra £130, then I recommend getting the iPad Air. You get double the storage, so 64GB. You get that laminated display, which means minimal gap between the pencil and the screen. And also you get an upgrade from the A10 chip to the A12, which really helps with stuff like gaming or simple video editing, or you just want to extend the life of your device by having enough power for future iOS updates and apps that will come out. Thank you guys for watching this review. I hope you found it useful. Got any questions about it, then leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Paperlike. And other than that, I will see you in the next video.